If you've ever walked into a loud nightclub and felt completely lost, girls everywhere, tables packed, promoters moving like sharks, this episode is going to change the game for you. Most guys try to bring bar game into the club. They show up late, they don't know anyone, they try to force conversations in a place where no one can hear them. It just doesn't work. But when you understand how club game actually works, how to use body language, tables, social proof, and logistics, everything changes. In this episode, I'm breaking down how to run high-level club game, how to get into the right venues, what to do once you're at the table, how to pull from after parties, and how to create magnetism without saying much at all. If you want to learn how to operate in clubs like a local celebrity, even if you're brand new, this is the blueprint. So let's get into it. You're listening to the Inner Confidence Podcast. My name is Robbie Kramer. I've been a coach since 2007, and I've helped countless men rapidly achieve all of their social and dating goals. My mission is simple: to help you position yourself to meet stunning women and make awesome friends en route to becoming the most confident and attractive version you can possibly be. I'm absolutely obsessed with giving you the most leveraged ways possible to win the game, so stick around, let's go. There's a massive value in friend zoning girls when you're trying to build your social circle and do well in fast-paced environments like nightclubs. And I'm also going to cover what happens at the pre-party and after-party, because a club night is always like a 3-course meal. You got the pre-party, the club, and then the after-party. The value of having hot girlfriends is very underappreciated by most guys, especially guys who are studying game and trying to get better with girls. And there's such immense value in having girlfriends, especially good-looking girlfriends, because it validates you to everyone else wherever you go. And obviously, if you have good-looking girls with you, it'll cause other girls to start looking your way. You can catch them trying to make eye contact with you. So I'm going to shift from that, and we'll get back into why it's important to have girls around. But I have a decent amount here on club game, so I want to make sure I get through most of it, and then we can talk about girlfriends and building those relationships again at the end. I think the big thing about building your girlfriend network is obviously being a chill, cool guy, and really avoid alienating yourself in some way by trying to go too hard on some girl that you end up looking like a creep or a loser or pathetic or anything like that. You want to make sure you stay neutral enough so that you're not going to blacklist you. So that's really important. And then I think the other big thing that I always do in terms of building up my network, I always found out about fun stuff going on. So girls would see a ton of value in that. They respected me. They wanted to hang out because I was always looking for the fun spot to go, which is valuable for them because I can pass that info along. They're better for it. So I think those are the two pieces. Moving on into club game. I broke it down from before you even walk into the club to getting into the club, dealing with security, to when you're inside, all the way to leaving with girls, creating an after party, and even what to do at the after party. If you're young and you have no money, befriending girls and promoters by adding value to them, by bringing them girls, is one of the only good strategies to use. If you have hot girls, rich guys are going to love you and everyone wins. Having your own real estate, a place that you can bring girls back to, that you can easily get them drinks super easily. I hate going to clubs if I don't either have full access to a table where somebody genuinely likes me and wants me to be there, or I have bought my own table through buying bottles. I'm just not going to go if I don't have that, and the biggest mistakes guys make is thinking they can just go to a club, buy a bottle and a table and think that's enough. I was at a club in LA called Warwick, and there were 4 guys at the table next to us. We had 3 guys and 8 girls, and it was just those 4 guys with no girls. They are all dressed in suits, and these dudes literally did nothing. And because we had tons of girls, they eventually started getting closer and closer because they were next to our table. They were kind of like spilling over, it was like a very small little, thing in between. And they were obviously wanting to meet our girls, but they were pretty scared. They weren't really too scared to try, I think. But our table was overflowing. And at one point, while we were waiting for more booze, a couple of girls ended up just drinking out of this guy's bottle. And he was like cool with it. He got nothing out of it. He made no attempt to try to talk to the girls, because if you're going to drop the money, you should be getting something for it. And I even offered to pay for this bottle because our girls were drinking it. And he was like, no. But the reality was he just dropped money for no reason. I think the quick and dirty on that one is the bottle is your tool, right? So you're pulling girls over to get them drinks. Any girl that's in your space, you're being nice, friendly, playful, fun, and offering them a drink. It's different from buying a girl a drink at the bar, right? You should offer girls drinks immediately because you have the bottle. It's sitting on your table. It sort of brings them into your space. And if you bring a girl to your table and you don't offer them a drink, it's pretty rude. But if you meet a girl at a bar and you don't offer a drink right away, that's normal, unless you've been talking to her for a few minutes and you order yourself one without offering. It's just the social protocol of the situation. If you invite a girl to a table, pour her a drink first thing. To succeed in clubs, a big part is about who else you know. Door guy game is super important. Their job is to filter out who's coming in and who's not. So they take it really seriously. Sometimes they get in a little bit of a power trip. And if they don't know you and sense at all that you think you should be there, whether or not they approve, then that's like a big turnoff for them. They're just going to sort of dig their heels in and not want you to come in. I experienced this a little bit in Paris a couple times. We didn't have as many girls as normal. And the door guy didn't know me that well because I was trying to walk in like I owned the place. But unless you have a really strong relationship with the door guy, it's kind of a mix between not being overly arrogant and not looking like a loser, someone who shouldn't be inside. It's a nice middle ground, but of friendly, open, chill, but also respectful. You want to show that you respect their job and authority, but when you see the opportunity, you want to try to get their attention. I think a big one is knowing the door guy's name. It definitely helps a lot. They know a ton of people. Even if you found out their name from someone else and they don't really know you, you can say it and they'll think that they met you at least once before. And you could use that to your advantage at a time when it's appropriate. You're not like yelling out their name like you own the place. So, they're close to you, they look over, you're like, hey, Eddie, hey, Luke, hey, it's just me and two girls, or me and a girl, me and my buddy and two girls, whatever it is. You could say you're joining a table, but I wouldn't bluff if you don't have one, because they're probably going to ask for a name and you kind of need to know that, or they're going to block you for bullshitting. So you just want to be straight up. Either way, if you're nice and coming correct, they're going to give you a better deal on tables, a better deal on bottles, a better deal all around. So that's a little bit on the door. So I always harp on this. Always try to have more girls than guys, or at worst, an even ratio. Trying to bring anything more than one other guy with you, unless you're spending, is kind of suicide. You're just going to sit outside. It's not going to happen. Dream another dream. And quality over quantity when it comes to girls is always a rule to go by. It's way better to walk up with 2 8s or even 2 7s than 3 to 5 6s. And height is definitely a factor too. In a lot of clubs, tall girls rule, even if you're not attracted to them or it's not your thing, even if you're short, whatever it may be, make friends with these girls. Making friends with them will help you with social proof. It'll help you meet other girls. It'll make it easier to go places. It'll make people way more attracted to you. It's very, very important to have tall girlfriends of this nature. They just rule nightlife. All right, so let's say you got by the door. You're either adding a bottle to a table or they just let you in, whatever it may be. When it comes to the entrance at any venue, you want to come in with a very strong posture, a big smile. The more people you know, the better. And that's going to take time. You can sort of fake the funk in the beginning. When you're going to these venues, you want to constantly be meeting more people and going back to the same places. The bartender, the door guy, even the security. The more people you know in the venue, the easier it is to operate. These people will also change roles and move ranks as time goes by. Your buddies with the security guy who was working by the bathroom, and a few months later, now he's working the VIP section. And he's not going to give you a problem going into VIP because he remembers you and you gave him the time of day. So remember that. In the club, you just make as many friends as possible. And you can fake the funk, like I said. You can wave and point. You can do a little bullshit pretending like you know more people than you do when you walk in. Don't overdo it, obviously. Genuinely knowing people reigns supreme. And as you start and keep going to these venues, you can meet more and more people. It gets easier. Obviously, fashion is important in every sense. A quick thing on club fashion. The biggest thing that people do that I think hurts them in the club is overdressing or dressing too professional, like you just came from work. Do not wear a suit to the club. Makes you look like a mark. The door guy won't let you in without buying a bottle. The girls will think you're a loser. Dress cool, casual, trendy, slightly fashion forward unless you know a ton of people. Then you can be a little bit more outrageous and edgy. And it's funny. It's actually the polar opposite of bar game of what I was saying in terms of conversation that reigns supreme. Conversation doesn't matter and actually only hurts you when you try to have a serious conversation with a girl, or even sometimes like a playful conversation that involves too many words. The deep role play, that sort of stuff. You need to hear everything for it to be funny. And you're just going to end up hurting yourself because you want to be heard by the girl. You're going to look lame by trying to make sure she hears you. You're just going to come across as needy. And it's hard for her to hear you. It's just a painful interaction. So by far, the better way to go is to do nonverbal body language, playful. Definitely do a ton of trying to get girls to catch you staring at you in the club. And as you build up a network there, the more that stuff will just happen on its own. I try to catch eye contact, and then I try to be playful, making faces, kind of rolling your eyes, kind of being a bit of a human emoji just because it plays with girls' energy levels. It kind of gets them excited and giggly and whatever. It doesn't require any conversation. I like to be super animated, and that attracts people. I look like I'm having a good time always, and I walk through the club, the level of confidence, and that's really the way you differentiate yourself is through your body language, the confidence you exude, how you differentiate yourself with your clothing. It's just like, what are you going to do to separate you from every other average dude, wearing a similar outfit in the club? If you're looking like you're having the best time at the party and you're making your own party, people automatically be attracted to you, and they'll be super open to you. And they'll be super open to you introducing yourself to them because you're bringing them into your world. And a big part of this is getting into the right mental state, and that happens before you walk into the club at the pre-party. I'm having a pre-party every time if I can. I'm going to be drinking, people are going to be vibing to the music. So what are the chances of me showing up not in a good mood? Like, why the hell are you going out in a bad mood? It's a recipe for disaster. The goal is to go out and celebrate a good mood. And if you're not quite there or something's off, that's going to be a mental thing for you. But part of it is acting, and that acting ability, that ability to communicate through your body language and expression, that is applicable to girls, applicable to your social life, it's applicable to business. That's something that you need to figure out on your own. But very simply answered, I'm smiling, I'm animated, I'm laughing harder than normal. I'm not overacting. I'm just allowing myself to have a good time and trying to stay out of my head. If I'm not talking to someone, I make sure I don't stay stuck in that headspace and talk to whoever I can. I might even go to the bar and start cheersing people, chat with the bathroom attendant, just anything to avoid being a wallflower. That's a good place to mention New Brew, the Euphoric Seltzer. This has kratom and kava root. I love this stuff. My wife drinks 2 of them during every round of golf. It relaxes her. No cannabis in here, no alcohol, but makes you feel good. So try some of this stuff. It's amazing, tastes so good, and no hangover. So my buddy invented it because he used to drink too much booze, and now he's good on this. So good alternative if you're trying to quit the booze. So one funny thing that I do that is really childish, and if I met a decent amount of people at the table, if it's not my table, if it's your table, for example, and hopefully you brought people to the table so you can kind of know everyone, you can do like the tapping on the shoulder thing to girls. Like you tap their opposite shoulder and they're going to turn around, right? So you're kind of like tapping them on this side, like you're standing here and you're tapping them in the shoulder. I'm going to look this way. And then, you do that a couple times. The first time they're like weirded out. And then you do it again, and then they finally notice, and you guys kind of have this inside joke together. That's a pretty low risk one that I've used a decent amount to meet girls at the table. More advanced stuff would definitely be throwing ice, throwing ice down girls' shirts even. Be careful with that. You can only do that maybe once or twice a night. And, one thing that's almost always happening at the table, also some of these more sort of hybrid bars, anywhere where there's dancing, girls are going to be dancing. They're going to be shaking their ass. They're going to be partying. And don't be like the other usual scummy dudes and try to like freak with them. Don't grind on them. Do not grind on the girls at the table. What I'll do is I'll back my ass into them in a really playful way and kind of like shake my ass, like back into them, and they'll always kind of grab me around the waist and they'll basically freak me from behind. And then if I'm getting a ton of love, I might turn around and dance with them a little bit, right? And then I'll run away and I'll do it to the girl like right next to them. I'm not trying to hide anything, but I'm also not getting all sleazy. And that's like my favorite thing to do. Like if a girl's sitting down looking like she's not having a good time, sometimes I'll go over and just give her a kind of like half-ass lap dance just to get her into a better mood. It's all about energy levels. If you can bring a girl up and be happy and having fun, that's why she's at the club. That's why she wants to be there, so she can have fun. So you're helping her get to that place. Then she's going to appreciate you either as a friend, maybe she's going to bang you later, maybe in a week, whatever it is, maybe in a month. But even as a friend is super important. If you're viewed as a fun guy, she's going to want to go out with you again. And then it makes your life that much easier when you're trying to get into the next club or not buy bottles or hang out at a promoter table because now you have girls with you. So really try and think about the girls and help them have a good time. Actually, this is something we talk about in the community all the time. The guys inside the Discord are constantly helping each other out. And I literally just coached someone through this exact issue just a couple days ago. So this is our Discord community. There's a whole system in place to help you level up, from our belt system to our weekly Zoom calls. Plus, members get exclusive access to things like the organized girl advice threads, where you'll be guided with specific real-time advice for your specific girls, and the ability to post recordings of your approaches and other interactions, screenshots to get direct feedback on things like texting, fashion advice, you name it. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. And the best part, It's a place where you get real-time feedback, accountability, and tons of support from other members all around the globe. If you've been in a community before, I guarantee it's nothing like this one. I only accept successful and motivated guys who want to reach the highest levels of personal development and game. So if you're a total noob or a tire kicker, this is probably not going to be a good fit for you. You'll discover all the other benefits when you join. So if you're looking to take your game to the next level, this could be the place for you. Funny story, I was at a table I was at a table next to Mickey Rourke at this tiny club in New York. The tables were kind of spilling over, and we started chatting with him and his handler. And we had some girls, and he had some girls. We kind of merged tables. And one of the guys in the group, friend of mine, just sort of walked up. He hadn't met Mickey, and he just kind of went down and reached for the alcohol. And I grabbed his arm, yo, let me introduce you to Mickey first, who paid for this table. If it's someone's table and you don't make a point to introduce them, you have no business touching their alcohol until they say you can, right? So don't just grab at it, and obviously introduce your friends. I'm always yo, is it cool if I pour some champagne, or is it cool if I pour some of this? And sometimes, we get to that over the top place where it's oh, totally cool, your table, my table, whatever. But I think at the end of the day, they still do appreciate that you're not just taking their booze. So going back to introducing yourself to everyone at the table, expanding your social circle in that scene, I think another big one is starting to introduce people. You can totally fake the funk with this too, meet a few people, and then as new people come along, you introduce those people to the people you just met. And I kind of did that shit all the time. It kind of puts you at this connector level, which is higher social value. And you really don't need to know that many people to start doing that. And the more you do that, the more it starts building on itself. What you want to help create is so everyone at the table knows each other, because that makes the table more fun. And if you're helping connect that and make that happen, then you're going to have that much more power in that whole social dynamic. If you can introduce girls to girls and to guys, if you're an introducer, that makes you look so much more attractive in their eyes. Just from that alone, you're going to get a ton of love from the girls. The table you're at, who you're with, how much fun they're having, how hot the girls are, how good the table is, all that stuff will add up to how much other people are taking notice of you in the club. How much girls are noticing you, how easy it is to catch eye contact. All of those things add up to making it easier to meet new girls. So let's talk about dancing, because this is one of the most misunderstood parts of a club game. You don't need to be a great dancer. In fact, trying to look slick or suave usually backfires unless you're actually trained. The goal here is energy, not technique. In a club, dancing is your nonverbal game. It shows how you demonstrate vibe, playfulness, and that you're the kind of guy who knows how to have fun without needing anything from her or anyone else. If you're at your own table, your dancing energy sets a tone. You don't need to dominate the floor. Just be in motion, be expressive, have fun, laugh, pull your friends in. If a girl is dancing, you can join her by matching her energy, not by grinding up behind her like every other creep, as I mentioned before. Use the move of backing into her playfully, letting her kind of grab you. It totally flips the dynamic. At big tables, also sometimes throw a little shoulder shimmy, or even just bust out a ridiculous dance move the lawnmower or the staying alive crap. Just trying to be fun and playful. And the key is to always look like you're enjoying yourself. Remember, if you're on the dance floor, a lot of clubs don't even have dance floors. It's going to be loud. Remember, you're not going to connect through words. You're going to connect through eye contact, touch, and proximity. Just like the club versus the bar rule. If you can't talk, you better learn to speak with your body. Bottom line, don't overthink dancing. You're not auditioning for so you think you can dance. You're creating a fun energy, giving women a reason to want to be around you. So moving on to getting numbers. Let's say you're introducing yourself to people, you're having fun, you're creating the party at the table. Obviously, you want to get numbers, and you want to get as many numbers as possible, always. And the good thing about a club and sort of, trying to make girlfriends as well as girls you're trying to get out with, you can get a lot of numbers in a club. You can certainly get a lot of numbers in a bar, but you can get every girl's number at a table when you're at a club. And it's really not weird to do that. You still have to tread carefully with promoters sometimes if you're at one of their tables because they might be territorial of the girls. But if it's your table and you brought the girls over, you can get numbers of all the girls, and most of them won't even notice you're doing it because there's so much other shit going on at the club. And in most cases, in most situations, in major markets, like in LA, those chicks are so likely to give you the number because if you just got a table, they now want you to know they want to know that you can go out with you in the future. Every chick in LA is trying to go out and find those guys who are spending money if they're party animals. I don't remember the last time I asked a girl to give me their number. What I do every single time after the introduction, maybe after a playful conversation, obviously nonverbal stuff, sort of bantering verbally, non-verbally. If there was a sort of vibe, even if not, after a little bit of that, I'll just hand them my phone with the number screen up. If they're confused, I might say, you know what to do. And if they're not, then, they might say like, no, they shake their head. Then you can kind of make like a joke out of it and be like, what? Like, you don't know what you're supposed to do here? But I almost never get turned down in that situation. And granted, I have social proof and other things going for me, but they know what to do. They're programmed to just put the number in the phone. It's so easy in clubs because the music is loud. It's hard to talk, almost like an excuse for you to do nothing except hand them the phone. I think it's definitely a good way to go. And the other thing that I think is super important, which I forget sometimes because I have so much other stuff going on, is I text them right there. Because if you wait until the next day and they were at the club, they gave out their number to 4 or 5 other guys that night, and they're all texting them the next day. If you got the number right then and there, maybe 5 minutes later, whatever, text them something related to the playful interaction you had, something like Robbie, boring guy with the ugly shoes. Ideally that way, they'll remember you, they'll connect to it, they'll laugh. And sometimes what I'll even do, let's say their phone's away or they're not looking at it, I'll make a reference to the phone, point at the phone so that they do look at it, and then they reconnect me with the text again. Or other times what I'll do is when I text them, I'll show them my phone, I text so they know that it's coming from me. Then hopefully it gets a little laugh. And when they look at my phone or something like that, it just creates that recall. But it just makes it so much more likely that they're going to respond and remember who you are. So let's talk about pulling girls back in after parties. I harp on this all the time. It's all about logistics and making sure you're set up to succeed the night of. And if there is an after party or even bringing one girl back, a few girls back, and people throw around that after party term so much, it doesn't have to be an actual party. You can say it's an after party even if it's just you, a buddy, and 2 girls. It doesn't have to be anything crazy to be an after party. It's just an excuse to go back. And it's way better than saying, hey, you want to go back and talk? Or, you want to go back to my place? Because both of those things make the girl feel like she's easy and being a slut. And she doesn't want to feel like that. So if you say you want to go after party, it just removes that. And you can use other excuses too. If you don't want to have other people over here or whatever, it's, hey, you want to come back? Check out the view from my balcony. It's super dope. Or come smoke hookah, or I have a pool table. Use any excuse so they can sort of remove themselves from the decision to go to your place. So the ride from the club to the after party is super important. Make sure you orchestrate when it's time to leave with your other wingmen. Order the Ubers at the same time. Otherwise, girls will be like out on the sidewalk and other guys will be grabbing at them, and you'll lose people in the process. And then when you get in the car, appoint one of the girls to be DJ in the Uber. If you have a bunch of girls and you're piling into an SUV, it's important to kind of herd them. You're kind of like a shepherd, because girls can go in all sorts of different directions outside of a club, and other guys will be grabbing, trying to get them to come home with them. But what you can get away with as far as like throwing girls into a car, granted, there's other girls in there. You're not doing anything that's against the law, right? You just kind of want to create a party environment in the car. And it's usually a 5 to 10 minute ride tops. The car is another good time to do some of the conversation and rapport stuff that you haven't had any chance to do at all in the club. So maybe a little bit of that while you're on the ride back. It's a little lower energy. So when you're back to your place, whatever other after party spot you've set up, or if it's a hotel or Airbnb, or if you're staying somewhere else, you've got to have at minimum booze, ice mixers, some sort of glassware, cups, and music. At a minimum, you got to have that. If you don't have that, it's really tough to sustain anything. And the girls are just going to get bored and be like, these guys don't know what they're doing, and probably take off pretty soon. But at minimum, you need the booze and the music when you get back, and you don't wait forever to start it flowing. I think games are super important. It's just kind of like lightens up the mood, especially you just came from a club. There's so much stimulation at a club. If you go back to an after party and it's like 5 or 6 of you and there's just not much going on, it can get boring for the girls super quick. So playing games is an easy kind of contrived way to keep the energy going. But games are an amazing way to transition from a club and feel like it's more chill, but still fun. And it's also leading sexual, because if you're in an after party situation, the whole point is to hopefully get one-on-one, hook up with a girl. So the ice game, which we've talked about a million times in the group, I'll get into it real quick. Basically, you set up a seating situation where it goes guy, girl, guy, girl, guy, girl. Hopefully you have too many girls, and then it's girl, girl, guy, girl, guy, girl, girl, right? And you announce, okay, everyone, we're playing a game. Have everyone sit like orchestrate where they're sitting, have a bottle of alcohol, some shot glasses, and a bucket of ice in the middle of the table. And then say, all right, on the count of 3, every guy is going to pick up a piece of ice, or every second person is going to pick up a piece of ice, and you're going to pass it to the person on your left without using your hands. Ready, set, go. And I'll orchestrate it and just totally lead it. And if everyone kind of does it together, like you just kind of motor through that first awkward moment of like, oh wait, we're passing ice with our mouse here. Are we really doing this? But if everyone else is doing it, it'll just totally go with the flow. I've been in situations with the most prudish girls who would like never, ever, ever play the ice game. But if everyone else does it, they just kind of follow along. And the ice game is amazing because you're literally, you're kissing the girls. And after about 2 minutes, you rotate spots. They say, okay, every guy gets up and you rotate a spot. So now you're in between the girl who is next to you and then a new girl. And you can really start to feel out which girls are into you. If they're, giving you love, they're going to be prolonging that passing of the ice, maybe some tongue action, whatever. And that will usually lead to a bunch of debauchery. And that game usually lasts, 10 to 15 minutes tops before it kind of breaks and people start to pair up. The ice game is my favorite of all the after party games just because it's so easy. With the ice game, the girls may be up for it or they may not. And all you need is one mother hen who's like, we're not doing this. And then they're kind of all, they have to agree so they don't look, like sluts. So there certainly is a time and place. Another way I like to introduce the ice game is like, oh, have you guys ever heard of the ice game? It's super dope. And hopefully you have another guy in the group who knows the ice game. You guys can talk it up and then you show them. I found the ice game while I was traveling through Europe. My wingman was at home that night. He took the night off. He'd been partying too hard for the previous 2 weeks straight. So I went out solo and I was introduced to the ice game by a group of Germans. I was like the 12th person involved. They had 6 girls, 5 guys, and they pulled me in for the ice game. So I'll tell this funny story about how I was out with a buddy. We were just trying to scam on chicks on this trip to Europe. And one night he stayed home alone and ended up making out with 6 German girls. And he was super pissed. And I'll tell the story and be like, and now we're going to play that game. And remember, you can't be overly excited about playing and about making out with chicks. It has to come off as like, oh, we do this shit all the time. It's like not a big deal. And if you look too overeager, then it just comes off really sleazy. It's already kind of sleazy. I mean, it is sleazy at the end of the day. So you have to mask the sleazy by being nonchalant about it. And the other good thing about the ice game is, it's kind of like a last resort. Like typically an after party, you have some other people who are like outside smoking, some people in another room kind of hooking up, and people kind of find each other and they make it happen. Like girls understand dynamics of after parties and they're coming back to the after party. It's either because they just want to party more with their friends or they're gunning for a certain guy and they're down to hook up. The ice game is best used in a situation where the energy is kind of dying, or you play it right in the beginning, where everyone's together and you need something to kind of like break the pattern and turn it into a more dynamic and fun experience. So, I'm not playing the ice game every time. I'm just kind of busting it out when I need it. So other games, I can talk a little bit about some of the other games that aren't as wild and necessarily like, hard to convince girls to play. Kings is one of them. I would think most of you guys have probably heard of Kings or King's Cup. Basically, you have a full beer or a full mixed drink or whatever in the middle. You spread all the cards in a deck around the cup and you each pick one and has a number with some meaning to it, whether it's, 2 for you, 3 is me, you have to drink, 4 is, whores, so the girls have to drink, 6 is dicks, so the guys have to drink. Everyone touches the floor. If it's like a 7, last person touching the floor has to drink. And in every number, there's a rule associated with like the loser. Whoever, doesn't do something fast enough has to drink. So that's one game. Another game is Never Have I Ever, which leads to people sharing a lot of funny stories. A lot of times sexual things, party-related things, or things that they might be embarrassed of. And basically how that game works is you say something that you haven't done that you think maybe other people in the group have done. And if you have done it, you have to drink and put one finger down. You start with 5 or 10. And whoever runs out of fingers first loses or wins a life, depending on how you want to look at it. But that's Never Have I Ever. And Truth or Dare is another one. I'm sure everyone kind of knows there's some other games that aren't quite as hard to pull off as the ice game can be at times. Then there's Spin the Bottle Truth or Dare, which is a fun one that I get more into. If you have one guy who's really good at orchestrating that and can kind of feel out like what people need what dares and what people need what truths, then that can be a very advanced but awesome game. My personal favorite, I guess, maybe tied with the ice game. And then I think the other big thing about after parties, it's kind of like flowing nicely. People are already sort of paired up. The after party is the perfect time to go into rapport, more legit conversations, whereas at the club, you didn't have any opportunity to do that. So this is your opportunity to flex those conversation skills and really show off that part of your game. You get to know each other a little bit, all that kind of stuff. I guess the only other one which I'll run into sometimes because I'm not as aggressive as a guy as some other friends. I don't think is getting the girl back into your room because you've already gotten to the after party. That's like the final step where she has to resolve herself hooking up. But the whole thought process of a girl being like, okay, I'm going to this room, something's going to happen. So that's always, the sort of biggest one to get through, at least in a party situation where you're trying to isolate the girl, back into your bed or into your room. And one of the good moves I used a lot is having a Rolodex of YouTube videos that are funny, cool, whatever, and be like, oh, I got to show you, I got to show you this video. Your laptop happens to be in your room or on your bed. All of a sudden you're watching a new funny YouTube video with this girl in your bed. And then it's pretty easy from there to, close the door. Doesn't really make a scene where other people, see what's going on. You're not like telegraphing or asking her to your room. One of my favorite videos, which is old as fuck, but always a hit, is the Hot Crazy Matrix. The guy basically, he's super deadpan, looks like a professor. He's breaking down everything a man needs to do in terms of dating women. And it's this crazy axis versus the hot axis. And there's a hot and a crazy line, all this stuff. And he says it with, the most hilarious deadpan voice. I think it's great. It's funny. It's true. It's true as hell. And girls kind of know that it's true. And it makes them start to think like, oh, what category do I fall into? And it almost makes them a little bit like, puts them in their place a little bit, I think, which always kind of helps with the power dynamics. It's also great because you can transition to that video. You can start talking about social dynamics and you can lead into like, oh my God, I have to show you this video about blah, blah, blah. Or, you're talking about, different dynamics or your friend's crazy, she's like a unicorn, but she's actually on that hot crazy scale. She'll be like, have you seen the Hot Crazy Matrix? I'm like, you don't know the Hot Crazy Matrix? You got to check out this video. So a bit more on making girlfriends. I think it goes, way back to what I was saying earlier when it comes to not doing anything that's going to alienate yourself and kind of blacklist you from the girl group. Be friendly, generous, but not overly generous that you just kind of look like a simp or a pushover. It's kind of like finding that balance, which can be hard, I know. Remember, the friend zone isn't bad. Use it to your advantage. The girl will introduce you to a bunch of her friends. You might bang a bunch of her friends. Then 2 years later, you might end up banging her too. If not, it's not that bad to end up in the friend zone. It doesn't mean that you're never going to have a chance with her. And it will definitely help you with the friends. But either way, it's going to help you to have tons of girlfriends. It's going to help you go into the clubs. It's going to help you at bars, sort of having that social proof and meeting new women in general. So I would just say to make a point to make girlfriends, not just the girls that you can take on dates and hook up, but like actually make a goal of making girlfriends or friends that are girls. I think a lot of guys don't do that. The way I've always done this is I've added value to the girls by bringing them good times. So if there's a way that you can do that, having the access, having the invites, and sort of being able to bring them into fun environments has been my biggest value add and why I've been able to grow my network so big and so quickly. Ideally, 1 or 2 days before is the best time to sort of invite girls out because they haven't totally figured out what they're doing yet. So you're going to get way more flakes if you invite girls out too soon. So saying that they don't know what they're doing yet, they're going to say, oh, you invited me too early. It just kind of looks bad. So remember to invite them 1 to 2 days before if you're going to go party. The other thing I really want to encourage you guys to do is organize pre-parties whenever you're going out with girls because you'll meet all the other girls first. When you meet girls before going out with them to the club, it's a whole different experience. The extra meeting them before is huge. It really makes all the difference. And it almost doesn't even matter how long. You could be there 10 minutes before. As long as you're rolling with the crew, you're not just like a tag along add on the table later. It makes a whole difference. So if you want to see exactly how I plan and execute a night like this, step by step, I actually did a full breakdown of a night I orchestrated out in Austin, Texas with 6 guys and a bunch of girls. We covered everything from which table to buy, how to seed the venue before the girls arrived, how to move them from the pregame to the club without drop off, even how to text and invite them out. It's one of the most tactical episodes I've ever done. And if you want to model a high level night out, go check it out. I'll link it in the description or the show notes. So whether you're working the floor at a dive bar, setting your own vibe at your own table, or building a crew that runs nightlife like a unit, this stuff takes reps and it takes awareness. Most guys go out hoping to get lucky. High value men go out with strategy, intent, and options. So if you're tired of winging it solo, or worse, spending nights chasing and getting nowhere, this is your cue to stop playing the game alone, join the IC community, surround yourself with guys who are leveling up, building social circles, learning from their feedback, and getting results week after week. If that seems like you, the link's below. I'll see you inside or out there. Out of all the guys I know, the only ones who managed to consistently win the game are those who built and invested in a high-status social circle. You can certainly approach women and try your luck on the apps if you're a Chad, but those strategies simply don't work consistently to attract top-tier women and awesome friends into your life. But for most guys, the idea of building a social circle can feel overwhelming, so they continue to hunt for women in their usual ways and end up settling for a girl they were never really that excited about in the first place. To avoid this fate, join our community and instantly plug into a highly vetted social circle of cool dudes to network and navigate your journey with. You already know it's hard to find wingmen because the good ones don't stay in the game very long. Many of our members travel together, end up living together, build amazing circles, and even businesses together, both in the West and in many of the best locations around the globe with gorgeous women and low cost of living. I'm extremely careful who I let into this community, but if you feel like you'd make a good fit, you can apply to join. The link's in the description.